So for this next part, I want to talk about living in the States and moving to the States and just life in the States as an Asian American. And we're going to start with speed round again. Just two questions though. How many times did you move as a child? And this would be from birth to age 18.
From birth, okay.
But communities.
Yes, but from birth, that changes for me.
Well, yeah, for you.
Well, I would say if you moved like 12 times between
Oh,
like
from
birth
birth.
and age 1, that I don't know.
No. Later than age 1.
Yeah. Like old enough that it would affect who you're around and your perception of identity.
What if it's before the age of 6?
Great. I love it.
Okay.
Okay. 3, it's just a number, one number. 3, 2, 1. Ding ding. Oh wow.
Twins.
At what age did you realize that you were different from your peers? Alice, do you have an answer? You're like,
It's terrible that this is my question, but I have no answer to it.
I think that's great.
That's fine.
Today years old.
I
All right. 3, 2, 1.
I can't.
We can trade if you want.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about that. So what did we have? 8. I think 8 was the youngest. So Julius, do you want to talk about what that was like?
Yeah, sure. I think it's because, it was just a huge culture shock. That's when my sister and that's when I moved here. And so I think for me that was the biggest difference. I now come to think of it, I've never been in like a co-ed like classroom because I've always been in an all boys school. And a lot of schools are very much, actually, a lot of schools are very much like that. There were 49 of you in each and every single class from like first grade all the way through like high school and stuff. And it's huge school and everything. And my sister went to an all girls school herself. And so I think that for me was different. I don't think I ever really realized it at the time because everything was just different in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, the food was different, but also just me along with everybody else. I was the only person that looked like I was one of the only people that looked like me, and stuff. And so it was very odd, and just trying to develop an accent or not have an accent, if that makes sense. That was the weird thing.
Yeah. Did you say there was 49 of you in every class?
There's like I don't know
That's
why, but I remember
specific.
this. It's like 7 rows of 7, and there were 12 of them every single grade, and so there was
Wow.
just a bunch of us. But like little obedient Filipinos, just very easy to manage. I don't know how they ever did it. Like, come to think of it.
Wow.
This was in the Philippines when we had
Yes,
49. We had 50 people per class.
that's crazy.
Mm.
Yeah, like now, really, we look at it, we're just like, oh my god, how did they ever do that?
And I remember they would line us up from shortest to tallest, and I would always be in like the first one or the second one.
Really?
In my private school, we probably had like 12 per class, maybe that.
Wow.
Yeah. So very opposite.
All right, so I think the next youngest was Helen at 12, and I think it's similarly when you moved here. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was when I was moved here I mean, it was a huge culture shock, but I didn't speak any English essentially when I first moved here. I knew the alphabet. I know how to say yes and no, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Um, um, and then it was just interesting how people treated you looked differently and you didn't speak the language. They almost treat you like you're unintelligent or you have a mental illness.
Mm.
Um, And I think PSA for our audience is it PSA?
Mhm.
PSA for our audience, when you meet someone that doesn't speak English well or might appear not to speak English well, don't just keep yelling at them and gesturing at them or speak louder at them. It doesn't help. If you want, you can slow things down a little bit and just gently explain it to them with simple languages. Don't yell at them. It does not help. I know I'm yelling right now.
But I bet you got that a lot. And I wonder, did you get that from both students and your teachers? Or,
Absolutely. Even my first day,
Wow.
I remember a teacher doing that to me in the cafeteria when I was confused. Because in China, essentially, they usher you by class into the cafeteria. Someone's leading you. It's very well organized. So it was like a huge shock that everyone just
It's a
you know,
free-for-all.
herded into the cafeteria like a swarm of bees. And I was just like, where do you sit? What do you do? The things that we see in movies of someone going into a new school and have no idea where to sit, that's so real. That's exactly how I felt. And I also remember once my English got better, um, people would talk around me like as if I don't understand anything. And that point, I understood things fine. I just still could not speak it, but I knew
Mhm.
exactly what they were talking about. So just remember to be kind to people around you that might not speak English as well.
Helen, did the school provide any ESL classes?
That's my next
They did.
question.
They did.
Okay.
But ESL classes only help so much. You know, they're
Yeah.
not with you every single moment of the way. And um, in a way, I think that's not necessarily a bad thing because the only way to learn and to learn fast is being thrown into something. You're forced to learn. You have to know English to survive, so you do it. Um,
And you were the only Asian kid in your class, right?
No,
Or
at that time though it was I was in public school for middle school, so it was a pretty
Oh.
diverse environment, and I wouldn't say the quote unquote Asian kids were the ones that I identified with the most at that time because
of course.
they seemed like really cool and they didn't necessarily there's one kid he also immigrated in to America like a few years earlier, so he would um, help me if I get really confused. But like we weren't really super close. And I think it was actually the Hispanic kids, and there's this one family they're from Afghanistan. I like really identified with them. Um, so yeah, that was my experience in public school. And then for high school, my mom wanted me to go to a private school, and that was a completely different experience. Um, I felt again really out of place because I was the only Asian kid in my entire class. There's another Asian kid in the class below me, and that was it.
wow.
Wait, Helen, in your middle school, like the first year that you moved here, was that one kid who you described, did he also speak Mandarin or no?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So that there was one kid with whom you could speak Mandarin if you like really needed to learn a word or something.
Yeah.
Did they try to set you up like the school or the teacher or the counselor, did they try to like set you up with another person to like help you
No.
get settled in?
No.
Because that's typically my experience on the other end. Like they'd be like, oh, this person is
Like
Asian,
your
this
mentor,
person is
yeah.
Korean. Like if you have any questions, like and they would ask me, like, can you like help her when she needs help? And I was like, yeah, of course.
Oh, and I like to point another things out. I remember very distinctly my counselor went to my mom, was like, she is struggling with her language. You guys should only speak English at home, which I guess that's the best of intentions, but like now that I have gone to college and have friends who are linguistics majors, and they said this is one of the biggest mistakes that immigrant parents make, is to only speak English and let their child fully assimilate, and forget their native language. And developmentally, it's really bad for the child.
We should come back to this.
We should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll come back to this.
What else did I want to say?
Oh yeah, because we're going to talk about language.
Can I say one more thing? And then
Sure.
I'm done. Sorry. And in terms of assimilation, I don't think I ever fully assimilated, honestly. I think.
You are not easily assimilated.
Wow, but
I think I was very different in middle school, and as I said earlier, I never really identified with the Asians here in the Richmond community. I think in high school, I like pretended to fit in, but like at my heart of heart, I knew like I wasn't part of that. So that's why like when it was time to choose to go to college, I was like, I'm not staying in this area. This is not, it's just not right. And I think it's only in recent years I was like, okay, like it's okay for me to not really fit in with what in like quote unquote Asian American culture is, and it's okay that I'm not like fully enrobed in the Chinese pop culture either. I can just pick and choose of what I like and just be me. The end.
I love that. Jesse, you said that you realized when you were 14, and I'm wondering, was there like a specific incident, or was it sort of a build-up and a slower realization?
Between them. So it was not, I don't remember like an actual second, but it was my sophomore year of high school when a kid named Brandon Kim, who was Korean American, was 1 year younger than me. And so he came to the school as a freshman when I was a sophomore. And that was the first time I had gone to school with another Asian person who was not my sister. And I was like, whoa, this is different. Also at the time, there were two other people named Jesse at my high school. I was a sophomore and Jesse Limbacher was a senior, and there was another Jesse in my grade, Jesse Horton. And high schoolers are mean, guys. Okay, so my nickname was, Jesse Limbacher's nickname was, he was just called Jesse because he was a senior and we were sophomores. Jesse Horton, who was in my class, was called Fat White Jesse because he was fat and white. And I was called Asian Jesse. So Jesse Limbacher graduated. Jesse Horton lost weight, so he got called Jesse, and my nickname was the one that remained. So people throughout from 2008 to 2011 called me Asian Jesse. Even teachers would call me Asian Jesse, and it became so ubiquitous that I remember some people would even call me Asian for short, like not even Jesse. And in retrospect, it was a very odd experience. But while it was happening, I just thought that it was totally normal. Alice,
Super alienating.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
Were you and the other Jesse, so the two sophomores, were you guys in the same classes?
Yeah. I think he was a theater major. Yeah, we were almost always in the same class. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was very strange, and I've even talked to. I'm not in contact with most of my friends from high school, or most of the people with whom I was friends in high school. But the few whom I have had discussions about this, they're like, yeah, that was not cool. Like that was, yeah, it was like. So now I look back on it, and it is, I think, Michael, you said alienating. It is alienating because I thought it was so normal. because I was like, oh yeah, my nickname is Asian. And it's because there was me and Brandon Kim, we were the only Asian kids in the school, which is why the story that I told before going to CCM was the first time I really had contact with an Asian community or an Asian identity. Up until then, when I was 14 and Brandon Kim came to school and people started calling me Asian Jesse, was the first time I was like, I guess I'm not white. Or I guess people actually see the color of my skin in a way that makes me different than others, which I had no concept of before that.
Wow. So were there no other Brandons? Did Brandon get a similar...
I don't think there were any other Brandon. I can't remember another Brandon. Oh, no.
I mean, it doesn't really matter.
No, you're right.
He didn't get this treatment.
There was another Brandon who had just graduated, so they didn't overlap.
I see.
Yep. Oh gosh, he was black too. I think he was a cellist. I am really glad that he graduated, because given how mean some of those high schoolers were, they would have given both of the Brandons, an Asian Brandon and a black Brandon, they would have been bad.
Did you go to governor school?
Yeah, Appomattox Regional Governor School. Yeah.
I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the other Jesse, was he then called only white Jesse, or
Nope,
just
he was just
Jesse.
Jesse.
lost all of his adjectives to
Yep.
his...
Because the other Jesse Limbacher, who was just Jesse, had graduated. So fat white Jesse Horton, just became Jesse, and I remained Asian Jesse.
And were these these names, these adjectives that were put before your name, your names, were they made by students first?
Yes.
Or
Yeah, students
and
first.
then
I would
the
hope
teachers
so.
to adopt
No,
Oh my God.
definitely not teachers first. No.
Woo.
And
Okay, but
no,
the teachers did adopt them.
okay. No teachers called Jesse Horton fat white Jesse.
Well,
Some teachers just called me Jesse, or Jesse Leong, or Jesse L. Some teachers, but yes, some teachers did call me Asian Jesse, and mostly it was in jest, in a lighthearted manner. I think everyone around that nickname that persisted throughout all of my high school years, and even into my college years, with people with whom I had gone to high school, were not cognizant of its ramifications and consequences and circumstances. So I never, but I mean, the fact that I never felt bullied by it in high school really spoke to the kind of isolation of Asian identity that I experienced in Richmond as a kid. It was so, and that isolation is then what contributed to the starkness of the shock that I felt when I experienced a deluge of Asian people and Asian immigrants and Asian community and Asian identity when I went to college. It was the contrast was night and day.
Wow. I have it's not a similar story, but it's related. When I went to governor school, and it's governor school, we were just talking about that. There was another Michael or Mike at governor school, and he was Black Mike, and I was
gosh.
White Mike.
Wow.
Which, I think because I was White Mike and he was Black Mike, that it's not like I didn't just automatically get Mike or Michael. Like the label was put on both. And I mean, for me, it didn't, why would it bother me? I don't know if it bothered him, but the people that were our immediate friend group were mostly minorities. I mostly hung out with Asian people and Black people at governor school. So I think there was something there that was definitely less alienating about those names. But in your situation, it all came from white people calling you Asian Jesse. Context. Okay, Alice, do you want to talk about it at all?
Richardson.
Yeah, I absolutely want to talk about it. So for me, I said I did and I still am.
Mm-hmm.
I think because wherever I grew up, I first lived in Los Angeles for a while, and then we moved to the suburbs. But there are a lot of Asians there, so I didn't really um, experience any type of separation from my own culture. But I will say, like, being a child of who were immigrants and now they're citizens, but they would always, growing up, they would always tell me, you're Asian, so you're going to be discriminated against. That's, and that was ever since I was a little kid. And then, of course, like, being a child of public school and they're teaching, like, oh, America's a beautiful country, and you get to, like, it's a beautiful hodgepodge of things, of different people, of different cultures, and that's how I was reared, and that's how I believe that to be true, which to a certain extent, it's much better than some other countries, so I'm not negating that by any means, but I always felt that I was equal to others. I was equal to all the other cultures and people of different nationalities, ethnicity, it doesn't matter. And then, but of course, my parents who had a little, their English was pretty good, but it's still like broken in terms. So like, they would always say like, if we're on the phone, then like, can you speak for me? Because they
My
know,
mom does that too.
yeah, because they know that they will be discriminated. They will be people have prejudices no matter what,
Sure.
and of course we all have differing levels of prejudice. And so, and I that always frustrated me because I'm like, why do I have to do this? You can speak English fine.
Uh-huh.
Like they'll understand you. It's just like, no, you don't. And I didn't get it until I think I want to say my early 20s. Or even like in undergrad when I was in college, I was just learning about, the lie that is the American dream, and like, all of those things, the sociology classes, and really finding a bit more about what is reality out there, because I grew up in a nicer neighborhood. I didn't know. I knew to a certain extent because my parents owned a store in the ghetto, but like that was only one side of things. And I still am in our industry and in other industries, just the whole model minority thing. Like, that I didn't even know about the model minority thing until a few years ago. But I think it was somehow still instilled in me because of how I was treated. How I was treated different compared to some of my other friends and their experiences. So I still am figuring out exactly how Asian I am and how people are treating me as such. But I definitely see the difference when I'm on the phone and I don't sound Asian. I sound like an American. And if it's someone who, if they were talking to my parents before, like you could kind of hear the relief that they're talking to someone who might understand better than I do, or can speak better. So,
Yeah.
Can I add something? I don't know if it's fully related.
You actually sound
Sure.
very much like my friend Lauren. Like there have been times when I've like heard your voice and I was like, oh, that's Lauren, but it's anyways. What were you gonna say, Helen?
I want to say there are scams out there that are specifically targeted towards, I mean, from my experience, at least like Asians who don't speak English very well. And sometimes I'll be with mom and I'll answer her phone, and one of these people, they will call and they'll hear my accent and they'll hang up immediately.
compared to your mom, of course.
Because I've heard her answer those ones, and then they just went on and on.
Yeah, they target people
Wow.
by their last name.
Wow.
But she's
Yeah.
smart enough, and she's like, okay, we're just gonna.
No.
Right, I literally just don't pick up my phone, which is terrible, but I don't. But another thing I was gonna add is, sorry, let me just remember what it was real quick. We were talking about the phone thing, and then, oh crap, I think I lost it.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault. It was just.
Well, I have
Oh,
another.
I remembered.
Okay.
Sorry. I mean, it's kind of related to like language stuff, but but it is more so about speech, about what we were talking about. But in
Accent.
third grade, I was enrolled in speech therapy, which was provided for free, and had a wonderful speech therapist who worked with in a group setting. So I wasn't the only person, but I was the only Asian at the in my particular class. But they, being an only child, and coming from being a child of immigrants, there are things that my parents couldn't say correctly. So things like mother and father, I couldn't do the th correctly because I didn't know that I was doing anything wrong. And that was very funny enough. It was kind of impeding my own speech, even though I was born here. So I was mother and father instead of mother and father, and among other things, and they helped me correct that, and I was very fortunate to have that. But I've also met plenty of people who are also born here, but they can't speak English properly. And we'll get into that. But that's not, I mean, but then I realize that's also like, it's a social, cultural, sociocultural thing, depending on where you live and what resources you have to get ahead.
And it's okay to have an accent. We have to remember that.
Right.
Too.
But again, we'll like get into
Yes,
that
we will.
a
That's
little bit.
a different thing. I know what you're
Right.
talking about.
And then one other thing was we were talking about assimilation, and I think it depends on what someone's definition of assimilation is, because I feel like we're always going to be trying to assimilate, but the way I see it is that we're not, for example, we're not like the Irish. If we're trying to assimilate into Caucasian society, if that's the goal, then we can't, because of the way we look, and that's just how it is. And so we can only assimilate to a certain extent, and I don't consider that fully assimilation.
I mean, like, we all pick up things from our parents. Even I think, like, when I was learning English, I was still, because my parents' English were better than mine for a really long time.
Oh, wow.
Listen, but like, oh god. So like, there are lots of things I would learn from them and the way they speak. And there are so many things I didn't realize the pronunciation was incorrect until really I went to college and had English diction.
Oh, well,
No,
Americans.
the word really, my mom says really, and I used to think that's how you say it.
But Southern people say that. We say that in Virginia, man. Like,
Really?
Really? No, like real, but she also says it, she swallows her R because R's are
Chinese.
oh yeah.
She's also Southern Chinese, so it's like extra hard. They can't roll their tongues at all. So it sounds like really.
Oh, okay.
Really.
Does not sound Southern. Yeah.
I mean, I have to say that Americans' pronunciation of English words is pretty atrocious. Of some English words is pretty fucking atrocious. Like,
Yeah.
It's.
I feel like, if you could consider it atrocious, or you could consider the beauty of dialects, it's just, Jesse's like, no.
I see no, okay. I see no beauty in the like hard hick, like deep, like I get like the like
the Richmond accent, which is like a Southern gentleman accent.
Yeah, it's a little ladder, like, we're so nice. Yeah, sure.
I mean,
They say when.
When.
They say that nice white family down the street.
White.
What? Yeah.
Well, it's just how you're gonna be seeing it. Like, people find the California accent like, the like,
Disgusting.
oh my god, like really annoying.
Yeah, I mean,
It's just gonna be who your taste
Part of
and
who
things.
we are.
But that's also America. America's huge.
yeah, it is really big.
I was in an airport in the Philippines like 4 years ago, and my sister and I were at a Starbucks. Sorry, quick anecdote. And we were swinging by, and my sister was just like, and they asked my sisters, these like two Australians, were like, "Oh, are you in line?" My sister was like, "No, no, go ahead," and like waited a couple months. She was like, "So where are y'all from?" Because like obviously there's no white people really normally there, and of course they're they have an accent. And they were just like, "Oh, we're from Australia," and they were just like, "Where are you from?" We're just like, "Oh, we're from Texas," and they were just like, "Oh, we love your accent," and we're just like, "Thank you," because we don't ever get that, So I get like to add on to each their own. I've never look at Jesse's face. It's just like
No, I actually, that's funny, Julius, because out of
Jesse's face.
out of all of us, I perceive that you have the most neutral American accent. I knew that Alice was from California the second I heard her talk.
Okay, you're welcome.
I think you I had a hunch that
Andrea says I sound Midwestern.
Well, which is Missouri. The Missourian accent is actually considered like the
standard.
Yeah. But yeah.
Helen, I actually guessed, I had a hunch that you were 0.5 generation.
Based on certain things you say.
Yeah.
It's only a few, and it's only after knowing you. I don't think I would have guessed in a 5-minute conversation, but only after having talked with you for a lot of months now that I am like, oh, every once in a while there's a word that I'm like, I don't think I would use it that way.
Yeah. The only time I notice it with Helen, it's never in accent. It's just
it's only in word use.
Just with plurals.
Yeah.
Oh.
We talked about this.
Or pronouns.
We don't have or pronouns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people perceive that I have a New York accent when I say things like sometimes I say like coffee or
Coffee
or like performance because my mom has a very, very strong New York accent. She cannot say R's, she in not the Chinese way, but she'll like door or
Door.
yeah, open the door. It's like it. And now, okay, my dad. I don't think he talked about this. He didn't talk about this in the interview. But my dad had a very, very strong Boston accent that he actually went to speech therapy to get rid of when he started in theater. And his uncle, my uncle Bill,
I love the Boston accent.
He's like and my uncle's really loud too. He's like, Jesse, how you? Okay, can I call you later? Oh, okay. I mean, it's like oh my God. Wow.
harsh.
Yeah, super.
No, stop it.
I want to try it.
Bounty.
Oh, bounty.
No, bong. NG.
That should be one of the speed round questions. What are you snacking on right now? And then
yeah. And just hold up your food. Or just like, no, have it pre-chewed and just open your mouth. No, don't do that. No.
We're still recording, so we can even use this as a blooper.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all missed some great math stuff that I was doing. Just saying.
Like a squirrel.
Are we recording right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So the Zoom recording goes the whole time, and then the local recording that I do in the Wondershare app that gets the gallery view is only when I count down for takes.
Oh, ASMR.
It's so loud. The loudest ASMR I've ever heard.
Democratic socialism. Democratic socialism.
Okay.
Democratic socialism.
Oh my god.
That's my.
What?
Defund the police. Defund the police.
Are you gonna put that
Defund the...
under the entire video?
Yeah, I'll just do like a Steve Reich, sample. I'll make it into a rhythmic thing.
Defund the police. Defund the police.
Oh boy.